The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening for our monthly Community Horizon Gathering. I hope everyone is doing well, and it's great to see so many recurring names in our audience as our numbers grow each month for these events. I'd like to welcome everyone back, and those who might be attending for the very first time, I'm glad you could finally join us. Tonight we have a very special topic on how to grow your business one review at a time. But before we get to that, as my slide deck keeps wanting to jump ahead, introductions are in order. My name is Brian. I'm the onboarding and training specialist at Horizon. And if any of you need my assistance after the presentation, please feel free to give me a call, send me an email. Always here to help you out. And the man of the hour, the OG of home inspections himself, Mr. Alan Carson, president of Carson Dunlop. How are you doing tonight, Alan?
I'm doing well, thanks. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well as well. Fantastic. Glad to hear. All right. Now, before I do pass the reins over, promise folks I'll shut up very soon. I just want to make sure everyone's familiar with how they can participate in tonight's webinar. First, you're going to see a control panel on the right side of your screen, and there's going to be an orange button that you can use to expand or minimize controls as you may need. Now, with the controls expanded, you have access to an audio and question section. For audio, I would suggest computer, but if you do need, you can select phone call, and it'll give you a toll-free number, and you can dial in and listen by phone. Now, questions. Please submit your questions to us at any point in time. We'll be glad to address them during the Q&A period. We'll do our best to answer every single question you have. You do have to type them, and then just click send. They'll come to us, and we will read them out during the Q&A. All right, Alan, if you'd be so kind, I'm going to pass the reins over to you. We'll get ourselves into something a bit more lively than my screen.
All right, here we go. I hope. Let's see if we can make this work. Okay, so Brian, have you got my screen up there showing the agenda?
We are looking fantastic, Alan. We're on the agenda.
Beautiful. All right, so I know you will let me know if things go sideways, but let's hope they don't.
For sure. And before we start, Daryl, definitely, if this webinar does go long, I promise we will mention it.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks to everybody for joining us. We're into August, and it has been a particularly unusual year. I suspect folks are getting tired of COVID and tired of being out of their routine. I think there might be some webinar weariness too. People have taken a lot of advantage of webinars and Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff, but there's only so much of this we can take. So I'm hoping we'll turn a corner soon all the way around the world, and we can get back to a semi-normal existence. However, for tonight, let's see if we can have a little bit of fun with a topic that's a little bit different than what we've been talking about, but it kind of picks up the thread. So I've got a lengthy agenda, so as usual, I had better get moving and stop fooling around. Okay, let's see if my slide will advance. Okay, not so far. There we go. We've got a title slide. So section 1, the evils of sales and marketing. And I say evil because, quite frankly, very few home inspectors, and absolutely myself included, are not, very few of us are natural salespeople, natural marketers. And the whole concept of sales and marketing, we would rather not do most of the time. Most of us would much rather do a home inspection than talk about sales and marketing. And so if you're like me, you'd much rather be looking at a slide like this than maybe a slide like this. So I think we're probably all on the same page in this kind of situation. And I think, though, that we would agree, if you could step back from it and the unpleasantness of it, that sales and marketing are necessary to grow our business. So maybe evil, but absolutely a necessity, I think. And I'm going to say that after 42 years of watching home inspectors go through this, start a business, try and grow a business, I see two paths that people tend to take. One is completely avoid the whole marketing thing. and just hope that the business builds on its own through word of mouth, goodwill, that sort of thing. And then I see other people who actually take the sales and marketing fairly seriously, spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy on it, from everything from paid advertising to real estate office visits to collaborative efforts, all kinds of creative things. I'm going to suggest tonight there's a path C, and we'll look at that. But before we get there, I wanted to go in a different direction for just a moment. Where I see a lot of home inspection companies and where I don't really want you to be is people, very often you and your partner working hard, working long hours, on call 7 days a week, and I'm sure it feels like 24 hours a day. And you're either out there hustling, trying to get stuff to happen, or you're sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. And if you can do 250 inspections a year at $400, your gross sales are going to be $100,000. You might clear 60,000 out of that, depending on how your life sorts out. So if you thought that both of you were contributing to this business and both of you working in it, $30,000 each is not a lot of money. And so I'm trying to find a way to help home inspectors get more volume, do more business, and spend less time having to do the stuff they don't like and not that good at, including marketing, and certainly less time waiting for the phone to ring. So I think we're all passionate about doing inspections, helping clients, taking care of our customers. And that's the goal of the exercise tonight, is to get us doing more of that and less of the necessary evil. So we'll see if we can get there. So those of you who take the path B and trying to hustle and do marketing and so on, I think most of us would agree that advertising is expensive. Very few home inspectors can afford to advertise on billboards or buses, television, radio, newspapers. That kind of stuff is expensive. And quite frankly, it's really hard to measure the return on investment from it. We've tried it a little bit, and I can't quite get my head around it, to be honest with you, in the home inspection business. Maybe somebody clever can figure it out, but I've not been able to. So how do we get the word out? That's really the challenge. And a lot of home inspectors say to me, well, my business is built on word of mouth. It's built on referrals and so on. And I would agree with that. And I would say, good for you, satisfied clients and satisfied agents. If you're an inspector who is comfortable working with agents, that's all good and that's helpful. But I'm going to suggest that most of us waste almost all of the goodwill we generate because we don't capture it and put that positive feedback to work. And it's tough to do, and fishing for compliments and asking for that kind of thing, it's just not what most home inspectors are cut out to do. So I'm going to say that the asking for business part of it, the asking for referrals, the fishing for compliments, it's just not the way most of us are wired. I would, quite frankly, have somebody say to me, hey, are you guys available to do an inspection for me? Then have us say to them, hey, if you ever need a home inspection, please consider me. Those are just two very different conversations. And I very much like the first one, not so much the second one. So part of my goal is to stop asking for business and start turning away business. Nice problem to have. So I'm going to suggest to you that it gets interesting because when we start to look at what we can do, I'm going to suggest that you do some what you might call accidental marketing or incidental marketing, if you're going to be a little more gentle about it, and let someone else do the heavy lifting. How do we get there? Let's have a look at that. I'm going to say that your accidental or incidental marketing includes, for example, creating great reports. We've been talking in the last 4 webinars about making great reports and how you do that. And remember, some of the key thoughts are, how does this help my client? Keep the report elegantly simple. Remember, less is more. That great looking output delivered quickly. That is all part of your marketing. And I'm going to suggest there's other unconscious marketing that you do as well. I'm going to say that if you are answering the phone promptly, being friendly and courteous, showing up on time, smiling, looking people in the eye when you meet them, asking about their concerns at the beginning of the inspection and listening actively, I think all of those help build your business, create that positive goodwill, and that I'm going to call accidental marketing. And if you take it a little further, when you're talking to people throughout the inspection, if you remember to use their name, I think that's powerful. What is a client's favorite word in the English language? Well, it's their name. And when you use their name, it shows respect and makes them feel good. I also think part of a great inspection and part of great marketing is to check for understanding. I go through a lot of home inspections where I watch the inspector talk and talk and talk, and the clients listen and listen and listen. But that's not communication to me. To me, a great home inspector should be stopping and saying, hey, does that make sense? Are you with me so far? Are you okay with what I'm saying? Do I need to go back over anything? So ask for the feedback. Ask to make sure that your client's getting what you're saying and show that you care about what your client is getting out of the exercise. One last thing, coming back to the report, but not producing the content, but delivering the finished product is, I think it's a great opportunity to underpromise and overdeliver. So we tell people reports within 24 hours. We always get the report out same day. And as we look through the comments we get back, our clients often mention, I got this amazing report with terrific content, great photos and illustrations, and I got it the same day as the inspection. So our internal standard is to deliver the report the day of the inspection, even though our outside promise is 24 hours. I would really encourage you, however you set up your business, to set an expectation and then exceed it. Don't fall short. I think that's absolutely critical. So you probably don't think of all that as marketing, you think of that as good customer service, but I'm going to tell you all those things can help build your business, and all of those things help to take us where we're going tonight. I'm going to tell you something you probably don't want to hear. Well, I often do that, so what's new about that? But I'm going to tell you that your client is not judging your competence. Your client A is not in a position to because they're not technical, and they are going to assume that you know what you're doing because you are the professional. So I'm going to tell you that performing a super high quality inspection, catching those defects that others might not, is completely lost on your clients. It does not help build your business. It might help keep you out of jail. You don't screw up, you do a great inspection, but that's table stakes. That's what people are expecting. And what they're going to judge you on and what makes them refer you and tell friends about you is more how you make them feel, what your customer service is like. I always think of it, there's a whole presentation about, it's called Coffee Stains. And the content is, when you get on a plane, you have no way of knowing what kind of plane it is, how well it's maintained, how well it performs, when it was last serviced, all that kind of stuff. However, when you sit down and you pull down the tray table and it's covered with the food that the last person sitting in the seat had, that creates an impression of the whole experience, the whole airline. And so that's how you're being judged. You're being judged on the simple, superficial things that your clients can see and form an opinion on, not your technical competence at all. Let me show you what I mean by that and give you a little proof. So here's feedback from a client. Think of what the key words are. Think of what the client is saying to us and how they feel. So he's saying, from the first phone call I made to the Carson Dunlop office to the quick turnaround on the inspection report, I was greeted by polite, friendly people that were willing to listen to me and answer my questions. The operator that initially helped me was the first impression I had of Carson Dunlop, and I thought she was courteous and helpful. The home inspector was extremely helpful and friendly and was willing to answer all of my questions, no matter how ridiculous they must have sounded to him. I've already recommended Carson Dunlop to everyone I have spoken to about my newly purchased home. Clients give you feedback and appreciate how you make them feel, not the quality of your inspection work. This is the voice of the customer, and we hear this time and time again. It sounds trivial, and it's almost insulting that people don't appreciate the excellent skills that we deliver, but that's the reality, sadly. So we have to frame our mindset a little bit that way. Let's look at it from a different perspective. I want to give you another piece of proof, this one from a real estate agent, and I think the difference is important to pick up. So this is a real estate agent who said, the professionalism is impeccable. It is what every business strives for, but very few have achieved. More specifically, the two people I dealt with, which included the person setting up the appointment and the inspector, my clients were completely satisfied, which makes me look good. Thank you. Not a word about the inspection itself, the report, or anything. It's all about how people feel and how we make them feel. And so having a real estate agent be made to look good for recommending you is what matters to the really good agents. I've had a bunch of agents say to me, Alan, I don't care about a thank you gift. I don't care about cards. I don't care about trinkets and trash. I don't care about discounts. I care about you being there when I need you and making me look good to my clients for recommending you. That, I think, is important to keep in mind. Now, I'm going to understand that some of our audience tonight is not going to deal with real estate agents on a regular basis. And I know some home inspectors have no time for agents. I get that. I respect that. I'm not on that page, to be honest with you, but I understand. So if you deal with the real estate community in a willing and engaged way, I think this is important. If not, you can just take a break on that one. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is the secret is not to beat yourself up doing crazy marketing or sitting there wait for the phone to ring. There's a way to do it and still not spend any time, hardly any money, and basically do nothing and still have a big win. So we're going to get to that. Let's just sum things up by saying marketing is important, absolutely. Some we do incidentally or accidentally. And we can get a big win by leveraging that goodwill we generate, doing the things we just talked about in a very simple way. Okay, and that way, moving along, is about growing your business with reviews. So I think we can do this without spending a lot of money, in fact, spending very little money, not spending any time, and letting somebody else do those tough sales and marketing things for us. So what do I mean by that? Let's see if we can go forward with the slides instead of backwards. That'd be fun. Okay, so I think you can do it with reviews. And to be honest with you, I don't just think it, I know it, because we've been doing it and we've been doing it for quite a while. What's magical is if we can get it set up to get the client feedback and the agent feedback, if you care, automatically. And better still, get positive reviews from that feedback to go straight up onto your website so you don't have to lift a finger. There is also the opportunity that most of us ignore, and that is to take negative feedback and turn those clients around before things go sideways, social or legal. So there's an opportunity to take a negative and turn it into a positive. And we'll talk about that just a little bit. Although it's not our focus tonight, I do want to touch on that. And again, the reviews give you the opportunity to nip that in the bud. So secondarily, I think reviews also give you the opportunity to get positive Google reviews. And if Facebook or Yelp or HomeStars or whatever is more important to you, you can do all that too with what we're talking about. But Google reviews seems to be the dominant one to me lately, and people see that when they do a Google search. So I think that's valuable. I think it's also valuable to be able to track your performance and see how you're doing and learn more about what your clients appreciate about your work. Take what your clients like about what you do and emphasize that. Emphasize it in your business, in your activities, and in any marketing you do. So leverage the positives and the assets that you bring to the table, not through your eyes, but through the eyes of your client. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Here's why I think reviews really matter. Most of us, and when I say most of us, I'm going to say most of us acting as consumers. So we're all consumers. So I would say most of us are smart and somewhat skeptical. Is that fair? Most of us don't really trust companies. Most of us don't trust advertising. Most of us don't trust the media, at least not all the time. What we do tend to trust are reviews from our peers, from the other customers that that company has had. And I think Google reviews, again, is a great example of that. But I would be really surprised if most of the folks on the call do not put some value and some weight in what people say about the companies they're thinking about working with. And this is an interesting statistic from Socialnomics. 90% of consumers trust peer recommendations, but only 14% trust advertisements. Big numbers, but I find that very easy to believe. That's kind of how I feel. Do I trust ads? Nah, I'm not sure 14% of the time I would trust an advertisement. But yeah, what other people say, I may or may not have the same opinion, but at least I feel reasonably confident they're being sincere in their comments and they're not trying to make a buck. They're not trying to influence me. So I think that is powerful. Here's what Trustpilot says. Online reviews help build trust and customer confidence throughout the consumer journey. And when 92% of shoppers now read customer feedback as part of their decision-making process, it becomes clear how important reviews and trust can be when it comes to powering your business and ultimately growing your marketing. So that to me makes a lot of sense. So if you haven't decided that I'm crazy quite yet and you want to take the next step, let's talk about how we're going to get a whole bunch of reviews. And I'm going to introduce a concept here. And Brian, can I indulge you? I would just like to introduce the term Net Promoter Score. And just so I can gauge the next comments through the next part of the presentation, can we do a quick poll to see how many people are familiar with Net Promoter Score?
For sure. Just give me a second here and we can get that launched. All right, everyone should see a poll. We'll have it up for about 60 seconds at most, and please just vote yes or no.
Yeah,
well,
so
Alan,
how many of you?
We are at almost 80% of our audience has voted. So we've got well over 100 votes, I think, so far. And we are, and the vast majority, over 90% no. So just let it for 4 more seconds, and then we'll close it at 30. All right. So we can share. 1 second here. I'm not sure if you can see that on screen right now, Alan.
No, I never get to see the results
Okay.
of the polls. You can tell me about them.
All right. So the results are 8% yes, 92% rather. I need to learn my math. Say no, and we had over 80% of our audience vote. So the bulk of people know they do not know Alan.
Okay, so that is perfect. So I'm going to carry on through. I tend to move fairly quickly because I get talking fast and I get excited. So that's why Brian mentioned the question thing. So if you need me to go back and revisit some stuff, happy to do that at the end. But I'm going to keep moving here. We'll talk about Net Promoter Score, and we're building a story here. And so we've talked a little bit about how marketing is not necessarily fun. Most home inspectors don't like doing it, aren't good at it. But we've talked about it's important. We've talked about some of the things you do that create the core of marketing, but we've talked how we don't leverage it very much. Okay, now let's carry the story forward. Net Promoter Score is fascinating. And it's not surprising that you don't know what it is, because it's more corporate than it is small to medium business. So we're getting a chance to dip in to the big company stuff here. We're getting to play in the Apple, Amazon, Starbucks kind of world today. So let's have a, and the nice thing is it's so darn simple. It's like falling out of bed. So what I can tell you, here's part of a story that I'm going to tell you that doing long surveys doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you, I know that because we did surveys for years. And our surveys typically had at least 10 questions, sometimes more. And you know what? Our response rate was less than 5%. And we didn't feel bad about that because we saw other studies that said 3 and 4% was not unreasonable. So we felt we were doing okay. The problem was we were getting, I mean, we're a small business, and so we were getting 5% response. We didn't really have enough numbers to tell us much. And to make matters worse, because the data was all over the place, we didn't really do anything with it. So we asked for surveys and we did some work and we put them together and we sent them out and we dutifully collected and recorded them, but we didn't do anything with them. The numbers were small. The feedback wasn't great. We got very few comments. We got a bunch of check boxes. So I'm going to tell you that was the wrong way to do surveys. So what if a survey was simply one question? Would people be more inclined to complete the survey? I sure would. So you tell me, and you know how to say the survey is only going to take you 5 minutes and then it takes you 15. Nobody believes that, right? So if you said it's just one question and you might not even bother using the word survey, that changes everything. So that's what Net Promoter Score is. It changed the way surveys are done, certainly at the big corporate level. So this is a globally recognized program. As I say, major corporations across the world use it. There was 10 years of research that went into it before it was released, and it's all built around a one-question survey. And the question is, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend our company to a friend or business associate? That's the beginning, the middle, and the end of the survey. That's the story. And what falls out of that is fascinating. And that is only the tip of the iceberg. Let's go a little deeper. So as I mentioned, some big companies use it. You might recognize those names, but I don't really care what they do. I care what it means to me. So when you ask those questions on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend our company to a friend or colleague? You're going to get an answer. And all the research and why it took them 10 years to get this out was they spent a lot of time figuring out what the answers meant. And here's where they landed. And this starts to create an interesting picture. So they said there are 3 groups of people. The people who love you and give you a 9 or 10, they call promoters. The people who give you a 7 or 8, Net Promoter Score doesn't give you any credit for that. They say, yeah, 7 or 8, yeah, people are okay with you, but they're not going to be your champions. They're not going to be your advocates. They're not going to beat you up, but they don't love you either. So passives are kind of neutral. And anybody 0 to 6 is a detractor. And so if they said, in the course of talking to a friend or a colleague, they had a home inspection, oh, use Carson Dunlop, what did you think of them? Not great. Didn't like this, didn't like that, whatever it is. Those are the detractors. And so there are only 3 groups, even though there's 0 to 10, so there's actually 11 possible answers. They're all broken down into 3 groups: promoters 9 or 10, passive 7 or 8, 0 to 6 are detractors. And the way that they calculate your Net Promoter Score is they completely ignore the passives, because passives aren't going to help your business or hurt your business. And the goal is to help our business. So what they say is your score is going to be the percent. So if you had 100 people, it's going to be the promoters minus the detractors. And let's look at that on a graphic a little bit. So if you had 100 people send you a survey on this one question, and 60% were promoters, and 15 were passives, and 25% were detractors, then your score would be 35%, plus 35%. If everybody was a promoter, you would be plus 100. If everybody was a detractor, you would be minus 100. So remember, it's promoters minus detractors, and that's how they calculate your score. And from a corporate level, companies like Costco, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, with the high profile loyalty emphasis in their branding and their performance, they tend to be around 70%, so plus 70, okay? So Net Promoter Score is a very interesting way to keep track of how you're doing. Everybody wants advocates and champions. The people who are neutral don't really help or hurt our business, so that's not very interesting. And then the detractors are actually going to pull our business backwards, so we care about them. And that's why they score it that way. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. Again, it couldn't be much simpler. I'm going to tell you that the promoters are so worth focusing on, because they're the people who are not going to be price sensitive. They're going to be the ones who do recommend you to friends. They're the ones who are going to be loyal to you. And they're the ones who are going to help you build your business through word of mouth if they remember and if they are asked. This is sad to say, but we have been around, as I say, for a very long time. And I've been in social situations where people say, I'm in the home inspection business. Oh yeah, I had a home inspection done on a house last year. And I say, oh, that's great. How was your experience? And they say, it was really good. Guy was terrific. And I said, oh, who was it? I don't know. They don't remember. They don't know. They can't provide any referrals because the guy's name is gone. The company's name is not on their radar. So whoever that guy was, he did a terrific job, created a bunch of goodwill, and got absolutely nothing out of it. So what we're going to talk about today is a way to try and get something out of it without us having to do the awkward question asking and all the difficult stuff. So the promoters are the people we really care about the most. I'm going to move on to something called Listen 360 surveys. And I'm going to stop, and I think I'm going to do another survey, although I think, well, no, this will be interesting. So what I want you to do is another simple yes or no survey or poll, and I want you to tell me, are you doing any kind of surveys now? If you're using a piece of software, it's usually called customer experience software. There's a ton of them out there on the market. Are you doing any kind of surveys on a regular basis? And I don't mean an occasional phone call to 1 in 50 clients asking them how they are. I mean on a regular basis. So Brian, can we put up that poll?
For sure. Let's just get that launched here.
All right. So I just want you to tell me, are you doing anything on a regular basis with your clients to get some feedback from them about how you did?
So although you can't see the poll, Alan, the three options are yes, Listen 360, yes, other, or none presently. And we've got over 60% of our audience have voted. We'll give another 10 seconds or so, see if we can get past 80. But the bulk are saying none at present. We'll give another couple seconds here. All right, let's just close that. We'll just do a quick share so everyone can see. But again, 2% are currently using Listen 360, 12 other, and 86% are none presently. Alan, back to you.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. That's what I thought we might hear, but that's good to know. It's nice to have the confidence of the numbers behind us. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Listen 360 surveys, and the transition here is Listen 360 uses the Net Promoter Score tool, so they are completely bought into it. That's the tool they use for their surveys. And again, that magic of a one-question survey. Now, there's a little more meat on the bone, so let's have a look at that. Okay, I'm going to tell you, and I want to be upfront about this. So we have a relationship with Listen 360. We partnered with them back in 2012. And so we did an integration so that Horizon users could use their tool without having to lift a finger. So everything automatically comes out of the Horizon system, out of the Horizon software, out of your Horizon reports, and it generates the surveys for the clients, it tracks them and so on, and we'll look at all the things it does. But it's because of what they call an API that we've built between Horizon and Listen 360. So we're two companies working together. So to get Horizon users engaged with it, it costs the Horizon user $250 a year. So a little bit less than one inspection fee, depending on how you count. Okay, so that's $250 US a year for the use of Listen 360. So you will find if you check around that that is a much lower price than what you would typically pay for customer experience software. So I'm going to tell you, without getting into any details, Horizon subsidizes the vast majority of this. So we do this because we think it's so important, and we think our Horizon users should be taking advantage of it. Now, when I say taking advantage of it, I mean taking advantage of some customer experience software. So we've chosen to work with Listen 360, but let me just change the slide so I don't get too far ahead of myself. But what I'm talking about is not the least bit unique to Listen 360. It's one company out of probably 20 or 30 that are available to you. There's one that focuses on the home inspection business. So I'm going to ask you to say, follow the concept, don't follow the brand, don't follow the company. And this is not about trying to get $250 a year out of you, because quite frankly, that's not going to change anybody's world. What I want you to do is take advantage of a tool that will build your business in a effective and cost-effective, low effort, low energy way. So I've been working with them, as I say, since 2012 now. I have the confidence that they are enterprise level, they are professional, they are for real, they're going to be around, they are responsive on the support. I know them to be a good company. So that's my story. I want you to listen to this, the whole conversation tonight, and then you might well say, let me shop around and see what's available from a customer experience management or customer experience software type environment. If you type those words into Google, you'll get tons of responses. So I don't really care what you do or with whom you do it. I do care that you think through this and see if it makes sense for your business. I really do care about that. That's my goal. So as you can tell, I'm a believer, and I'm a believer because it has helped our business. It makes us look good. We use it all the time when we talk to clients and agents, and it doesn't take us any time. It's so cool that way. I love the effectiveness of it, and I love the efficiency of it. So it's cloud-based software, of course, because it's integrated with Horizon. Everything we do is in the cloud. It uses Net Promoter Score. I've already said that. And it gets client reviews for you, and it gets agent reviews for you. So in our relationship, every Horizon partner gets not one, but two accounts. You get a client account and you get an agent account. And the reviews are kept separate. The scores are kept separate. Your Net Promoter Scores are different for clients and for agents. So you're getting two different network communities to connect with and to get the feedback from. Okay, so as I said, we joined in 2012. Here's the magic. Remember what I said about the surveys we sent out for a number of years, and I said the response rate was about 5%? We have now gotten the response rate on our surveys to over 50% from clients and over 25% from agents. That gives us enough data to get our teeth into and to really understand what our customers are telling us. You can look far and wide, you can do lots of research. You are not going to find response rates to surveys like this. And the whole magic of it is the single question and how it's presented. So I would love to take some credit for this. I can't take any credit for this. These Net Promoter Score people got it right, and that's why they're used throughout the corporate world. So here's what has happened. We have accumulated over 4,000 client reviews and over 1,400 agent reviews. And are they accessible on our website? Oh, you bet they are. And I'll show you how. I've given you some links here. We'll be sharing out the presentation. I can't remember if Brian mentioned that or not, but we always do. We'll make it available to you. So, but you can go on our website anytime and see them. We have a couple of different ways to get there. We'll show you a couple of screenshots later. But that is pretty valuable feedback. And so I won't get ahead of myself. I will leave it there. So these are 4,000 positive reviews from clients and 1,400 positive agent reviews. So it's pretty magical to me. This is what the feedback looks like. And you can put this up on your website. You can put a link to this and it goes to their website that it looks exactly like this. A couple of things to point out, and I know the print is small and it's hard to read. It puts the newest ones first, the most recent, because people want to see new surveys. They don't want to see old feedback. So it puts the newest one first. This is just an old screenshot, but every day it gets refreshed in our business and the newest ones go at the top. It gives the client's initials and it tells the client it's going to do that. It also invites the client to allow us to use their name. And so they can check a box to do that. And we get about probably 1 in 5 or 6 that where we use the name. This one is all initials. So you can see the feedback there, you can read it. And as I say, we have, there's about 30 they show to a screen and you just keep flipping screens to get the feedback. So you can point prospects and clients and people shopping for an inspection. Why should I hire you? Why should I work with you? To point them to this is so powerful. Point them to their reviews and they have that credibility. So just to recap very quickly, the one question is, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? And people break down to detractors, passives, or promoters. Your score is promoters minus detractors, okay? So you can find out who your happy customers are, and those are the people who are going to give you referral business, and we'll touch on that in a second. You can also find out who your unsatisfied customers are, so you have a chance to fix it before it hurts you. And I'm going to tell you, I'm threatening to do one of these webinars on complaint resolution and customer satisfaction. I think it's so important. And I think, quite frankly, human nature is very much ostrich-like when it comes to complaints, which is to say, stick your head in the sand and pretend you didn't hear it. I'm going to tell you that's exactly the wrong way to handle it, especially given the power of social media. We'll get there in a minute. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about how Listen 360 works. So we talked about that integration with Horizon. So automatically, when you finish a report, when you publish a report, Listen 360 will send an email to client and to agent after the inspection. You can set the time. We use it 5 days after, so we kind of wait till people have calmed down a little bit, but it's still fresh enough in their mind to be a strong memory. So we send the email 5 days after the inspection. You can also set it to, if they don't respond another week later, you can send them a reminder. You don't have to, you can. It gives you that opportunity. And it allows you to collect the feedback, and we'll get to that in a second. So you don't have to do anything. It sends out an email to your client. What's cool is when you get positive comments from your clients, Listen 360 is built with what people are now calling artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever fancy words I don't understand. But what it does is it says, oh, here's a positive comment, and it will post that to your website. It doesn't send it to you for you to put up on your website. It just automatically puts it on your website for you. You don't have to do a darn thing. Now, you also don't have to check your website every day to see if you got any feedback. So you get an email with feedback the same day, whether it's positive, neutral, or negative. You get email with all the feedback you got that day. So you get the feedback directly to you so you know who said what about you. And it's not just with the initials because they are your clients, so it'll tell you exactly who the client was. It will also in the background create dashboard reports, which we'll look at in a minute or maybe 10 minutes. And it'll show you how your business is doing. All of that completely hands off. You don't have to do a thing. So we talked about the surveys about 5 days after. We talked about you can choose the time. The subject line, and here's where Net Promoter Score comes back into the forefront. So the subject line is your company name and 2 words, feedback request. That's it, full stop. Your company name and feedback request. It doesn't say survey. It doesn't say give us 5 minutes of your time. It says feedback request. Now the next screen is what they see. In that email, and you'll notice this is configured so that it appears very nicely on phones, because something like 57% of, that number is probably obsolete now, but that's a number that sticks in my head. 57% of internet activity is through mobile devices. That's probably conservative. But so the survey, and it doesn't say, please take a few minutes to complete this survey for me or anything like that. You can put text in there like that. We don't. And I can tell you, we've played around with this for quite a while and we've tried different things. Here's what we do. We get straight to the point. We say feedback request is the subject line. And then we say, how likely are you to recommend Carson Dunlop to a friend or business associate? They say, and they can see the 10, which says very likely, and the 0 that says not likely. It's completely intuitive to them. All they do is press a button and they're good to go. That's the whole survey. That's the magic of it. So as I said, if they give you a 9 or a 10, they're a promoter. 7 or 8s are passive. 0 to 6 are detractors. Okay. Now it gets interesting from here. So you're a client, you've been asked for feedback, and all you got was one question. People are surprised at that. People are a bit taken aback, and people say, wow, the whole survey took me about 10 seconds. So now what happens is, depending on how they rated you, you get an open-ended question. If they gave you a 9 or a 10 and they're a promoter, they get a very short question that invites them to say, doesn't require them, but it invites them to say, hey, what did you like about our services? And they get it in this format. So it says, what did you like about our services? You gave us 9 or 10, thanks for that. What do you like about our services? So they can type stuff in, and those are the positive comments I'm talking about. The reason we get the 50% plus response from clients is because the survey takes 10 seconds. It's so easy, and people almost feel guilty about not doing any work completing the survey. So they're actually quite inclined to write a few bullet points, a sentence, a couple of words. We get a lot of positive comments filled in here. Now, a couple of things. When they see that open-ended question, you might say, oh my gosh, is this the beginning of a long survey thing? So it's important that they see that big red submit button at the bottom. You see that? That gives them the confidence that this is not a shell game and we're not going to keep asking them more questions. This is it. You answer this and you hit submit. So we also give them a box, and you can turn this on or not. It's up to you. We have a checkbox that says they can check it. It's not automatic. They can check it. It's okay to publicly share my name and or company to promote Carson Dunlop. So they have the option. And as I think I said to you, 1 in 5 or 6 clients allows us to use their name. So, and if they don't, it's okay. There's a fine print down at the bottom that just says, we'll use your initials and we respect your privacy, blah, blah, blah. So that's the story. And it's amazing the feedback that you get, but it's only part of the story. So now we've gone through, if they gave us a 9 or a 10, they get the question, what did you like about our service? And here's a typical testimonial. I'm not going to bother reading that. It's what you would expect. Now, what it gets interesting with is if they gave you a 7 or 8, they're a passive, right? They're not for you or against you. Yeah, service was okay, didn't really like it, didn't hate it. So what we do is we then ask a different question. We say, what could we do to improve? So we didn't say thanks for raving about us because they didn't rave about us. What we're interested in is how we could have made them happier. What could we have done better? And so that is pretty useful feedback. So we get that feedback. Any answers that they give us, in fact, even if they just give us a number and no answer, we get that emailed to us the same day these surveys come in. At Carson Dunlop, we typically get a few from clients and a few from agents every day. Depending on the size of your business, you may not get that many, but you get the feedback immediately. And again, good, bad, or indifferent, you get the feedback. So you ask, what could we do to improve when they give you a 7 or 8? And again, they hit the submit button and away they go. We don't ask them about using their name because we're not going to promote them as a testimonial because they didn't give us a testimonial. So there's no point in asking for permission to use their name. You see how this has been boiled down, thought through, experimented with to get to an elegantly simple place. And that's what I love about it. So you're probably wondering what the heck happens if they give you a 0 to 6. Well, let's see. If we get a 0 to 6, here's my first reaction. Gosh, they're probably going to tell other people they weren't happy with Carson Dunlop. And you know what? I take that personally and I hate that. So we ask, how did we disappoint you and what can we do to make things right? How did we disappoint you? How can we fix it? Now, you can ask whatever question you want in here. Net Promoter Score and Listen 360 has some recommendations. We follow pretty closely their recommendations because every time we departed from them, we found out our results weren't as good. So these folks know what they're doing. So this is the question that we ask to people who give us a 0 or a 6. And of course, it looks like that. How did we disappoint you and what can we do to make things right? And let me tell you, every now and again, we get quite an earful from here, okay? And I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't. My inspectors and my customer service people hate this part. I love this part. It's our chance to get better at what we do. It's our chance to take a step in the right direction to building our business. Yeah, it's often painful, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But if you ignore it, which absolutely you are entitled to do, by the way, it sends you an email, you can ignore the email. You don't have to respond to the client who's giving you bad feedback. You can say the guy's a jerk. And that would be pretty typical. I'm going to say something completely different to the guy, and we'll get to that. Okay, here's why I care so much about the detractors, the people who gave us 0 to 6. Did you ever grow up with, or did you ever hear the phrase, hey, a happy customer will tell 2 or 3 friends, but an unhappy customer will tell 10 to 15? I've heard lots of variations on those. The problem nowadays is that saying doesn't hold true anymore, because with social media, an unhappy customer doesn't tell 10 people or 12 or 15 people, they tell tons of people. And there's a book you might want to have a look at. It's a quick, simple, easy read. It says, satisfied customers tell 3 friends, angry customers tell 3,000. And it's all about that business in social media world that we live in today. So I think, and again, feel free to disagree with me. Everybody does all the time. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But I'm going to tell you, I think that's important to me to keep our business going for another 40 years, is to understand why people are sometimes unhappy with us and do everything we reasonably can do to turn them around. Okay. I'm going to tell you a couple of things about what I think is the right way to do it. I've already told you I think it's the right thing to reach out. I think there's a real benefit in that. And finding a way to make it right and turn a critic into a fan or turn a detractor into a promoter is absolutely magical. So here's what we do. First of all, we pick up the phone. We don't do text, we don't do email, we pick up the phone. And we do it as soon as we get the email notification that we have a detractor. And we do it the same day. And do you think it's the favorite part of anybody's day? Heck no. Although, what's amazing is how much of the time it gets resolved in that initial phone call. It's very often a conversation. In the first place, do you have any idea how unusual it is in today's world for a company who gets a negative review to pick up the phone and call the client? People are taken aback that you called them. And then the three most common things that fall out of the discussion is the issues in the report and they didn't read it, which is probably number one. The issue is out of scope, nothing to do with a home inspection. That's number two. And then number three, we couldn't possibly have seen it because that crack in the garage floor, do you remember how the garage was filled with storage? And by the way, we have this photo in our file. We didn't send it to you as part of the report because we didn't want to clutter up your report. But let me send you the photo of the garage filled with storage and remember what we said about it. And you can check the report to see the limitation about the garage was filled with storage, so we couldn't see it. So that's not the end of the conversation. That's the beginning of the conversation. In all three of these, now you take on the role of the trusted advisor. It's really who we are anyway, and it's really what we do anyway. And so now we're going to say, let me see how I can help you get this resolved. So now you have turned from them being mad at you to you are their solution provider. You are their knight in shining armor. Here's another little thing that you might want to do. When you call them and they start to say, here's my problem, I always say something like this, and our people always say something like this. Before we start, I wanted to say thank you for reaching out. I know this was a hard call to make, or that was a hard review to write if you're responding to the review. No one likes doing this, and I'm grateful you contacted us so we can help you resolve it. Nothing about blame, nothing defensive, nothing antagonistic, and the last few words are key. We're going to focus on helping you get the problem to go away. Because here's the truth. When you're dealing with unhappy customers, they want the solution. They're upset that they have this problem. That's the main thing. And they're only tangentially ticked at you for not telling them about it. So if you can help them solve the problem, you can be that trusted advisor, that expert, you will turn them from an enemy into a friend and make that detractor a promoter. It's a process. You get better at it the more you do it. But this is the kind of thing that 98% of home inspectors refuse to do. And I'm telling you, it's like taking medicine. It may not taste great, but it works. I think it is magical. So, sidebar rant on changing detractors. Now, you're going to be sitting there saying, but some guys are just completely unreasonable. And I'm going to say, absolutely right. Sometimes you can't solve it. You can't make people happy. So a money back guarantee, I did a talk about 15 or 20 years ago about talking a 2-time or 3-time money back guarantee. And some of the companies in the US picked it up and ran with it. And some people now have a little branded logo about 200% money back guarantee. So that's great that they do that. The long and short of it is, I don't care whether you give a written guarantee. I don't care whether you say I have a limitation of liability. I would rather you give back a fee or a little bit more to make a problem go away and call it a marketing expense than face a social media attack or a lawsuit. Because for me, the only thing I have is my reputation and my company's reputation. It's all I have. And if I have to spend a bit of money to protect it, that's an investment. It's not a cost. And I'm going to do what I have to do. And it drives my people crazy sometimes when I say, no, we'll return their fee, or no, we'll do this for them. And the conversation I've had probably 300 times is, but we didn't do anything wrong. But I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm going, you're absolutely right. This is a business decision. This is not losing an arm wrestling match. This is a business decision to help build our business, to help make sure we thrive and flourish. It's doing the right thing very often for the wrong reason. And sometimes it sticks in your craw. And I get that. It's still sometimes the right thing to do. Okay. Let's move on, because if I get much further down that road, I'm going to be into a different presentation. Okay. So there are some options you can do when you get those positive responses, those reviews or testimonials from the promoters who were nice enough to write a positive comment. You can do it a couple of ways. You can do what we've done, which is have a dedicated reviews page or testimonials page. I don't care what you call it. Reviews is kind of a more current word in my thinking, but you can have a dedicated page on your website for reviews with a link to it. Or you can have a button on your homepage called reviews and people can click on it. Or you can do both. And I'm going to tell you, we've chosen to do both. Okay, so here's what the reviews page looks like. So this is the top part of the page. So what we've done is we've taken some of our favorites and put them in a nice graphical presentation. And I'll just show you the bottom half of that page. So that's the top of the page. As you get down, so we've got 3 or 4 kind of framed, nice, positive reviews. And then we have this button that says view more reviews. And this is the button that takes them to the Listen 360 reviews. And when they click that, they go to this page. And so this page has our name and address on it. It allows them to go back to our website, but it starts to give them the client testimonials. This is where our 4,000 plus client testimonials are. And you can see from the date here, August 11th, 2020. So I just took this off yesterday. I haven't even read what these are. So the first one is short and sweet, initials. Second one, short and sweet, initials. Third one, oh, the guy actually gave us his name. So he checked the box and said, yes, you can use my name. Okay. So this is the kind of stuff that your prospects see, that people thinking about using you can go look at. This has pretty high credibility. Okay. This is what people are saying about you on a regular, ongoing basis. These are real. These are believable in a way that advertising is not. Could you fake them? Yeah, I suppose you could. Do some people? Probably some people fake a few, but it gets to be pretty heavy lifting to do it in the volume that Listen 360 using Net Promoter Score can do, given the volume of responses that we get and that you would get. So we talked about this. We showed it very quickly. You can ask for permission to use the client's name in the review. You don't have to do that, but you can. We do it. And otherwise, their initials appear, which you saw. Okay. Now, the other way to do it, so that's the dedicated reviews page on your website. You can also just have a reviews button on your website. And I know one home inspector, fairly successful one-man show, and he told me, and I'm going to get the number wrong, so I'm going to be conservative, something over 80% of his business, he said, comes through this reviews button. And I've just put a blue circle around it. You can make it as big or small as you want. Reviews by Listen 360. His website has kind of a green page. He's got kind of a green tone to the button and so on. But he said that's where so much of his business comes from, the credibility that builds for him. So that's another way to do it. And I'm going to confess to you that we do both. We have the button on our homepage, and then we have a reviews page as well. It's under the Why Choose Us section. So it's not twice right in your face, but we do have both. Okay. So there's another thing that I love that is related to this that you don't have to do anything to do. Now, again, none of this is you. None of this is you doing anything. It gets set up and it just flat out happens. We set it up with Listen 360 so that those positive reviews go to your website for you in whichever way you want them to appear. Okay. Here's another thing. When people Google your company, you typically get a bunch of results, right? And very often your company name is over to the right side with the Google reviews. one of the things that shows up in the list on the left going down and the organic search results is your reviews by Listen 360. So this was about the third or fourth result under Carson. So when I typed in Carson Dunlop home inspection or whatever I typed in, I can't remember now, Carson Dunlop Toronto maybe. I typed in the company name as though people might be searching for it. And so I get the links to our website and so on. I also get this, which is reviews for Carson Dunlop, and it's our Listen 360 ratings. And you'll see it's a 5-star rating. We get 4.8, and we've had 7,724 reviews in total. Can you think of another company in our arena that has over 7,000 reviews? So those are not all testimonials. Remember I said we had about 4,000 testimonials on our website. They're saying about 7,700 reviews. And they tend to be in the 4 to 5 range. Why? Because it's the promoters who give you the positive response, and they gave you either a 9 or a 10. So it kind of works out that you're going to be in the 4.5 to 5 range. And so you get the 5 stars, you get the positive rating. It's all done for you. Doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely honest. People can click through and see the reviews, count the reviews, read the reviews. There is nothing fabricated about this. It is exactly what is happening. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 more options. I'm going to call this kind of the advanced part of the session. So the meat and potatoes of it we've covered, and it's pretty flippin' simple from what you have to do. The results are pretty powerful because these guys have got it figured out. Now this is the icing on the cake, and I'm going to tell you, to be honest with you, we've tried this stuff. Some of it we do, some of it we don't do. I'm going to tell you we do number 1 now. We're not doing 2 or 3 right now, but I want you to know that these things are available to you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to kind of fly by them, but I want you to just know that they exist. So one of the things you can do is when somebody gives you a positive response, remember I said they had that artificial intelligence or whatever you call it to recognize the positive comment. And when they give you that positive comment, you can also ask them to post that positive comment on Google and or Yelp or HomeStars if you're in my market, or Facebook, or whatever suits you. And so they can choose to do that. And it also allows them, they don't have to retype it. They can just copy what they've already said when they gave you the nice feedback, and they can just click a button and send it over to Google, let's say. And so you get a Google review if they choose to do that. So you can ask them to do that. And it works the same as the emails. You can send them a reminder in a week if they haven't done it, if you choose to. We do not do that, by the way, but you can. So that would look like this. So inviting reviews. If you got time for a quick favor, help us spread the word by posting your review. We're committed to making great experiences like yours our standard. That's more words than we use because that's just a sample from Listen 360. So we're a little shorter in our language than that. This is where they can copy the feedback to the clipboard. And in this example, people can either post it on Google or Facebook, or they can just ignore it, or they can say no thanks. So there you go. So that's the first thing, and that is something that we do. The second thing is if you choose to, you can give them a gift. We're giving you, you should not bribe people to give you a positive review, but if people give you a positive review, you can thank them with a gift card, a discount on an additional service you might offer. If you, I won't get into any of the details, but if you offer ancillary services, or if you want to give people a Starbucks gift card, if you want to do something nice for them, you can do that. Give them an ebook about looking after their house or something like that. So that is another possibility. As I say, we've done this for a bit. We're not doing it now. It's a bit marketing after the fact in some ways to me, and I couldn't measure a return on it, so we didn't do it. There's a third option, and that is instead of inviting them to post a review, you can ask them to do a share and share it by email or LinkedIn or Twitter or even Facebook. And so that same kind of idea, if they give you a recommendation to their community, their friends, that's from a trusted advisor. So if you get a note from somebody that you know and trust and say, hey, I just had a great home inspection from ABC Inspection Company, then that has some weight. You can build into that a discount for that person. Again, we don't do that. We have done it a bit, we've tried it. I didn't think that it made enough difference. So you could say, you can have $25 off your inspection. So if they refer a friend, that friend could get a discount if you choose to do that. Or you could just have them share their positive feedback with their community. So with their Facebook friends, with their email community, whatever. So again, those are 3 additional options that you can do. So it may or may not appeal to you. The asking them to post their feedback on Google, we do ask. The gift and the social sharing request are 2 others that we do not do. So that is the story on that. That's kind of the advanced after the fact additional stuff. So the icing on the cake, if you will. Okay, just to touch base on this one more time, I've kind of talked about it. So we've surveyed our clients. What about agents? Well, there's a whole parallel world for the agents. So all of this works exactly the same for your real estate community as well. So it goes into Horizon, it grabs the agent's email address, name, and so on, and will survey the agents and collects the feedback separately. And on our website, we post the agent feedback in a separate part of our website. So client feedback is on one page in our client section. We have an agent's corner in our website. That's where we post the agent feedback, where other agents are likely to see it, because they're going to be interested in what their colleagues say. They'll be more interested in what their colleagues say than in what our customers say. So that is why we do it that way. Our reviews button on the home page, it only goes to our client surveys. We don't have 2 buttons, one for clients, one for agents. We thought that would be too confusing. But in the agent section of our website, if you have a page devoted to agents, that would be a logical place to put your agent surveys on your website, your positive reviews, if you will. Okay. Getting close to the end here. I did want to touch on the reports and analytical information, and I'll move through this fairly quickly. So I told you would get an email every time that somebody posted some feedback. Here's one. It's a little bit hard to read, but that would be a daily email for us, and you can't read it. Let me zoom in on it a little bit, make it a little easier. So this one, July 29th, so 7 customers responded in this one. So we had 7 responses the day before. No recommendations, that would be people posting on social media, and no click-throughs, that would be the people who were recommended to us by a client through social media. As I say, we're not doing this right now, so that's why there are none. We had a client at risk, not one of these 7 customers, but actually one from 2 days before that we're following up with, and that stays there until you take it down. So it's a reminder to me that, hey, we're still dealing with the client resolution issue. So it'll show you, and most of the time ours shows 0 client at risk, but when we get one, we deal with it, as I say, immediately, same day. Sometimes it takes a couple of days to get to resolution, sometimes longer. Most of them are same day, but not all of them. Up at the top, it tells you your net promoter score. So I remember the score is, our score is 94. That means 95% of our responders are promoters and 1% are detractors. So 95 minus 1 is 94. That's over the last 3 months. That also gives you the numbers over the last 12 months, not quite as good. And it also gives you year to date from January 1st. So you can see trends here. Now, this was not very useful because it's pretty stable, but it can show whether you're getting better or worse just at a glance like that. So that's kind of cool. So that's all part of the email notification you get whenever you get some feedback. And just here's some of the details. So it gives, I've blanked out the inspector's full name and the client's names here. And so I get to see these. To be honest with you, these emails typically get sent out sometime in the middle of the night. And it's a wonderful way for me to start my day, to come in and read this kind of feedback about what we're doing out in the field. It is a bit disconcerting when you get a negative one, but it's also pretty positive when you get the good ones, which, as you can see, are about 95% of the time. So I love getting these emails. And so to summarize, the testimonials help drive your business. The unhappy clients and agents that can hurt your business, you get an opportunity to address. I want you to use the good feedback to promote your business and use the bad feedback to solve your problems and protect your business. Okay, let me just talk about the dashboard for a minute or two. They do a dashboard for you, which is kind of cool. And again, this is not emailed to you. This you have to go into your account to look at. And so it looks like this. It gives you a quick executive summary. It gives you your loyalty summary, and you can click on these buttons to do for the last week, the last month, the last 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or for all time. So it's so simple and intuitive, and to get these curves. Here is your curve of whether you're doing better or worse. Remember, I told you we're doing kind of stable, kind of flat. I'm thrilled with where we are, don't get me wrong, but we're not improving and we're not losing any ground. Okay, let me just go to the next slide here. So there you can see how your score is changing over time. You can see this curve, how it's trending. You can see here how many promoters, how many passives, and how many detractors. So you can see the numbers. And remember, the score is calculated by promoters minus detractors. You can see how many feedback requests you've sent out in that time frame, how many responses you've received. And as I said, we're typically 50% plus, so 57% response rate. So if we send out 100 requests, 57 people are giving us their feedback. That's a pretty cool little scorecard to let you keep track. And again, it takes less than a minute to look at it. Here's another one that I love, and this is called the voice of the customer. And what this crazy system does is when people use positive words about you, what did you like? Remember that promoter's question, what did you like about our service? So it searches and gathers and counts the words that are of the same type. So the most common word people use about us is professional. The second most common is efficiency. These are what people like about Carson Dunlop. They like our professionalism, our efficiency, and our knowledge. They like home inspection. That's not very helpful. Do you see the little bit of red on those ones? So home inspection, staff, and schedule, we've got some red. Those are the same words being used, but they're negative. So the people didn't like something one of our staff did. The people didn't like the schedule. They probably couldn't get an inspection when they wanted it. So you get that feedback. I'm pretty comfortable with a little bit of red like this. People liked our courtesy. And again, you can do these reports for as long a time period or as short as you want, as many reviews as you want. You can do it. I'll show you the next slide before I get ahead of myself. So it shows you very quickly. And the reason I think this is important is you want to take these words and you want to take them to heart. This is what your clients see you to be. This is how you look through their eyes, not through your eyes, not through your marketing, not through your rose-colored glasses, but this is what you look like to your clients. These are the words that you can use to build on. And when you're talking to people about who you are and what you do, you can share with them that our clients say this about us regularly. And you can say it with confidence, and you can use those words because you know those words are important to your people. So if most of your customers, and again, we've been doing this long enough, that we know this is the majority of what our customers want to see and what they appreciate coming from us. So as you can imagine, our website, our marketing, our brochures, and so on is built around these words because it turns out that's who we are. And this will tell you who you are to your client base. And I think that's super cool. And the price is absolutely nothing. It's just included for free. It's a dashboard report. You go in and look at it. How much work would it take us to do this and to keep track of this and to build this? I can't even imagine. So there you go. To me, it is absolute gold. Now, for those of you who have more than one inspector, it also gives you the ability to do a real quick ranking of your inspectors. And you can see who's getting the most surveys, what kind of net promoter score individuals get. So if you have 2 or 3 inspectors, you can evaluate them independently. So you may or may not want to do that. It doesn't apply to a sole proprietor, but again, you can do that. And again, you can select date ranges. You can select which inspection types. By the way, almost 50% of our inspections are for sellers now, not just buyers. So we sometimes sort these by inspection types. We want to know how we're doing with sellers, how we're doing with buyers. Is there a difference? And as it turns out, there is. So that's another fascinating way to use this. But it's kind of there on the shelf for you. It's quick and easy. I'm going to tell you, we probably don't leverage it as much as we should. I do check it fairly regularly at a high level because I can get that quick glance at a dashboard and I can see in under a minute how we're doing, where we're going. And, you know, if the ship is on course, you just go away and check later. If you see it going off course, you've got to do something about it. Okay. Alrighty, so what have we got here? I'm going to tell you that all this good data input is not worth a nickel unless you do something with it. So what I want you to do is, if you're going to go down this road, whether you go down it with us, with Listen 360, with somebody else, if you're going to take advantage of today's technology to get some feedback from your clients, please do something with it. Please leverage it on your website, absolutely, in whatever other marketing materials you do. If you do office presentations, build that in. Encourage a room full of agents to go look at the agent feedback and see what their peers and what their colleagues say about your company. It's so powerful. And for goodness sake, follow up with the detractors. I think that's, and I get that nobody wants to do it, but I'll tell you another little secret. After you have done it, you are so proud of yourself. You feel so good. You know you've done the right thing. And 9 times out of 10, you've turned a bad situation into a home run. You have made a significant difference to your business. So I think it's very true about everything in life, that the things you dread doing the most are the things that bring you the most value. I think that if you trust me on that one, it'll stand you in good stead. Okay, so just to recap, if you're crazy enough to want to do this with us through Horizon and with Listen 360, you got to pay them $250 a year. And again, remember that we're paying for another big portion of that you don't see, but we'll leave that alone. If you want to get set up, send us an email. This is the part that Ariel hates because Ariel's going to have to do the heavy lifting. So I'm going to ask you to be a little patient because I suspect Ariel may get a bit of may get swamped a little bit. He's going to set aside some time and try and do it by or before Friday, August 15th. I'm going to say it takes Ariel probably 30 to 45 minutes to set up each account. So there's some work on our part to be done. We may have to push that time frame out. Just depends on how many people want to move forward with it. So if you send us an email, we'll respond. We'll let you know what things look like. And so Ariel's target is to get everything done by August 15th. I think he's perhaps a little optimistic. So I'll ask you to be patient with us if you would. Okay. I am all set. I just wanted to touch base. Next month, we're on for September 16th. I'm inclined to talk about resolving complaints because it kind of picks up the thread from this presentation a little bit. It ties back into Horizon a little bit. There's a tool in there that's super helpful. But I'm also going to reserve the right to change my mind if something exciting happens. I have a couple of other thoughts floating around in my head. And depending on what the world brings to us, I may change gears, but we'll let you know. We'll post it on our Facebook group. We'll post it on the Horizon site as we always do. And if we change gears, we'll let you know. So I should stop rambling just about now since I'm coming close to an hour and a half. And I am going to ask Brian to take over, correct all the mistakes that I made, and let me know whether we have any more work to do and whether we've got some questions.
Well, first and foremost, Alan, fantastic presentation. I think I can speak for everyone still in attendance. A lot of good insights, not only how to deal with customers and get reviews, but obviously Listen 360 itself. Got plenty of questions. One I want to address right away. And if you do me a favor, Alan, can you go back to the slide about the sign-up process? It's just the one previous slide. Or next one, pardon me. I'm bad at counting. So my apologies, everyone. Just for clarity's sake, you can enroll at any point in time. Just as far as this presentation, we're anticipating several people will want to sign up. And as such, we're letting everyone know that if you say sign up today or plan to enroll, we'll try to get you set up for this coming Friday. But if it's a week, 2 weeks, a year down the road that you have a change of heart and you would like to use Listen 360, please feel free to reach out to us at any point in time. It's not a limitation in that capacity. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone before we get into the Q&A. You can enroll at any time. Sorry, Alan, didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I just wanted to clarify that right away.
No, thank you for doing that. I did not make that very clear at all. But yeah, this has been available to you since about 2012, and it will be available to you for the next 8 years as well. So yeah, there's no urgency here. Just if you want to do it quickly, you might have to just wait a little bit, was what I was trying to say, and I didn't say it very well. So thanks for clearing that up, Brian.
Right. Now, first question, Jim has a question. Does getting sweaty and dirty during an inspection impress a client or turn them off?
I'm going to say up to a point. I really like the concept of the client seeing how hard you work for them. The fact that you risk life and limb, the fact that you go the extra mile, dig a little deeper. But at the same time, they would love you to do it in a fashion that doesn't leave you looking rumpled, disheveled, smelling bad, and looking like a chimney sweep. So the art is to look like you're working hard, but still maintain a presentable, professional appearance. And that sometimes is really tough to do. Things that we like to do is we carry a clean shirt with us when we've got multiple inspections in a day. So if you get grimy at one inspection, you can show up looking fresh for the next inspection, for example. Wet wipes, well, everybody's carrying sanitizer now. The world has changed. So staying clean and fresh, things like breath mints. And again, you're dealing with people, except for in COVID times, in kind of a face-to-face environment. So the goal is you want to be perceived as that authoritative, in control professional. And you need to do what's required to maintain that impression. But I take the point of the question. It's a great question because it's a double-edged question. Yeah, that, gosh, he worked so hard. Bob Dunlop, who retired some years ago, had a great way to put it. He said, we always want our client on site because when people see how hard we work for them, friends don't sue friends. And I think he's right. You build a rapport in the course of that inspection experience. So, and that's the essence of that question. Yeah, you want to do that. You want to show these people that you care about their well-being and how they're going to make out in this new house. You treat them like a favorite family member. That comes through loud and clear. Sorry, too long an answer. Brian, I always go off on tangents. Sorry, you should shut me up.
I was loving the answer, every bit of it. I think everyone else would as well. So please feel free to go on your tangents. As a follow-up, Jim has a secondary question and ties back into getting reviews. So, when you get a 5-star review on Google, after an inspection, should I email the realtor to let them know that the client was happy? How do you think about that engagement? I guess Listen 360 sort of solves that with the dual capacity, but your thoughts?
It's probably the right thing to do from an absolute business corporate marketing perspective. I've never been able to bring myself to do it. I've always thought it looked a little too much patting yourself on the back, if you will. So I told you at the outset, I'm not a natural marketer or salesperson. Part of the reason I'm not is because I hesitate to do that kind of stuff because it feels too self-serving. So I think it depends on who you are and how you're wired. Some people say, heck, why not spread the good news? And I get that. And as I say, probably the right thing to do from an absolute business standpoint. I don't do it, and I don't ask my people to do it because it makes me feel a little bit like I'm bragging or fishing for compliments or something like that. So I'm probably not a very good answer, but that's how I feel.
Thank you, Alan. Daryl has a question about improving your click-through. So he uses an alternate method at this point in time. And do you find that when you use Listen 360, or you swap to that one question approach, that significantly improved the click-through rate and actually getting people to leave reviews versus just opening the email?
Well, yeah, the response rate is probably the easiest way to measure that. So we went from 5% to 50%. So it was over the top, the difference.
Now, question is in relation to that, and I know it's a feature offering within Horizon, sort of on that same cusp. You have the ability to send an email through Horizon Marketer that would ask for a review. Yep. How, in comparison, obviously this is a bit more robust, but in contrast to the two, what are your thoughts on why this is a superior offering, if you will, versus everything you've explained tonight?
Well, the advantage of Horizon Marketer is you don't have to spend a nickel to do the same thing. The downside is it doesn't do all that other stuff for you that we talked about. It doesn't ask the follow-on question. It doesn't have the capability. It doesn't have the that build. So you don't get the filtering. You don't get the follow-on questions. You don't get the automatic posting to the web. It's more labor intensive. Although you don't have to send out the email, everything else is heavy lifting in comparison. And also the absence of reporting is a downside. So I like Horizon Marketer a ton, and you can absolutely do some of what we've been talking about with that. And as I say, it takes you the time it takes to set up Horizon Marketer, and then it is automated and free. It's just that the feedback that comes back in is a little bit less filtered and robust, and then you have to do something with it more hands-on. So pros and cons, I like both.
Thank you, Alan. Tara has a question with regard to Listen 360's capacities. Do you have the ability to adjust settings like when the email sends out? So instead of immediately, could you set it to like 5 days or 10 days?
You can adjust that. You have a lot of flexibility in when you send emails out. You can send them out for a while for fun. We sent the emails out 3 months after the inspection because we wanted to get people's feedback after they had moved into the house and had a chance to get settled in and see how they felt about it then. What we found was the response rate went way down because it was such a distant memory then. People didn't have that immediate connection with the home inspection after 3 months. So you have lots of flexibility, and I would encourage you to try it and change it around a little bit. And we've changed, I think, from 2 days up to 10 days, and we've settled on 5, but it's not right or wrong. You can fiddle with those and change them around to see what you get. And I may or may not have made it clear that you can also change the words in the email and how the questions are worded a little bit. And I wouldn't stray necessarily too far, but it does give you that amazing opportunity to test something or try something, do an experiment for a month and see if you get more feedback, if you ask the question this way, or if you change something. So if you have the time, patience, and interest, you can customize, and there's quite a bit of flexibility, not only on the timing of emails, but also the wording and the format and the messaging.
Thank you. Antron has a question with regard to it. Do you need a website for this to fully work?
You don't need a website, but you lose the advantage of not posting them on a website. So you can still get the great feedback, but you lose a layer of the benefit, in my opinion.
Question for Anne. Do we have a promotion with any really good website hosting companies?
Gee, Brian, we have a relationship with a fascinating company that has a product called Inspector's Edge. And we don't have any direct financial connection with them, but I've been working with Inspector's Edge folks for 25 years, and they, for our customers, will build a website, host it, and maintain it for 6 months absolutely free of charge. And then after that, you pay whatever their monthly hosting fee is, which I think is around $30 a month, but I can't remember.
Awesome.
I don't know how it gets much cheaper than that. And these folks are professionals, they're graphic designers by nature, so their websites look really cool. They use some of our content, so you don't have to create all the words and all that stuff. They will build, it's focused on home inspection, and it's built around the Carson Dunlop philosophy. So you can have a website for virtually no money upfront for 6 months, and then pay about $30 a month for it. I can't remember if $30 is the right number, don't hold me to that. But it's pretty low cost. And I don't want to say table stakes, but I would say a website significantly enhances your credibility and your professionalism. So I would encourage you to look at that. And Brian, thank you for asking me that loaded question.
Hey, no, I was right from the audience. With regard to Listen 360, can you disable auto mailouts? So for someone who perhaps doesn't speak English?
That's an interesting question. I'm about 90% sure the answer is yes. But if you ask me, well, you can do it through Horizon by making that a do not contact, I believe. And you can probably do it in Listen 360 as well. So I'm going to say yes, but I would have to check for 15 minutes to exactly how you do it. So
you might want to interrupt you, Alan. In this case, I'll do one better. Jim, I'll respond to you. I'll check into that with Ariel, our guru, just because that one's a little bit more technical. I didn't know if you knew that off by heart. Sorry to interrupt you there, Alan.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do it. It's an interesting question, though. Do you want to not send it out? Is the report, I don't want to get into a discussion about this, but here's my rhetorical question. If you're going to deliver the report to the client in English, and the inspection agreement was in English, if they don't speak English, they may well have someone who they're working with who does speak English. So I might not hold off on the survey. I still might send it out, using the logic that if they were able to have someone help them read the report, someone might help them respond to the email, and you might get some valuable insight from them.
That is why I need to let you finish. My apologies. Great insight there. Ivan, this is a little bit of a longer question, so I'm just going to read it out. So he did surveys a few years back, and it seemed that complaints that they reacted to didn't really need to be addressed. Like, the client fixed the toilet thereafter, and life moved on. But because we promoted feedback, we got to hear about the toilet and offered a refund. You know, otherwise it would seem better not to know about it, kind of thing. Question, so, you know, does the ability to use Listen 360 disable, you know, detractor comments from getting published? How does it work? Does it only allow the 9 to 10s to appear on your website? How does that filtering process work?
That's a great question. So the answer is, it's up to you. You can choose what gets posted on your website. We have chosen, and I apologize for failing to make that clear during my comments. So you can choose to have good comments and bad put up on your website. And the argument is that that makes them more credible because there are some bad ones. We have not done that historically. You can choose to do that. The first part of the question I thought was going to go in a different direction, so I'm going to respond to that. And that was the part about, if you ask for feedback, are you going to get negative feedback that you would not have gotten if you hadn't asked in the first place? And I'm going to say yes to some extent, but I'm going to say, instead of thinking that as a negative, think of it as a positive in this sense. People, remember when I made the comment about thanking people for complaining because it's hard to do? I will tell you there's a lot of people in the world who will be mad at a company, but will not reach out to that company because they feel that they're going to be ignored, because it's going to be awkward, they're going to be berated, they're going to have an argument, it's going to be an unpleasant experience. So they don't reach out to the company. But what they do is they do talk to friends and colleagues about their experience. So by reaching out and asking for the feedback and getting some negative feedback that you wouldn't otherwise have heard about, I think is a positive, even though it may feel like a negative, because I think it is going to give you a chance to turn that detractor who's saying bad things to others about you, but doesn't have the courage to say it to your face if you want to be cruel about it, to come forward. And when they come forward, that's why I say the first thing you do is thank them for doing that, because you understand that it's awkward and it's a difficult thing to do. So show the respect for them actually being kind enough to give you the feedback so that you can help them resolve their issue. It's not your issue, by the way, it's their issue, but you want to help them resolve it, as I said before. So yeah, I kind of played off that question in two different ways. I hope that's okay.
No, I think that was a fantastic answer. Appreciate that. I'm sure Ivan did as well. Robert has a question about Listen 360's ability to basically survey or past clients. Is it only future clients? How does that work in that capacity?
That's another question I would have to check on. I don't know. We don't have it set up to do it retroactively. It's triggered on the report delivery. So out of the box, no. It might be a question for Ariel, but my first reaction is I don't think so, at least not easily. My second thought on that is that surveying somebody 6 months or a year after a service has been delivered, I think the volume and the quality of feedback you're going to get will probably be significantly diminished. So I think you lose a lot of the benefit if it's not immediate. But again, that's an amateur from the outside giving an uninformed opinion. So I don't stand behind that. It's kind of my suspicion. But again, Brian, if we have a couple of questions for Ariel, perhaps we can add that to it, whether people can survey old clients. I don't know the answer.
For sure. Hey, perfect. In those cases, if there's something not sure, just let me know. I can certainly pass that along to Ariel, and we'll get a little bit of a response and a follow-up email during on Friday that we send out. And Walter, my good man, you are absolutely correct. I do apologize. Friday is the 14th, not the 15th. That was me on there, so I will wipe the egg off my face. And but we gave that day of brevity for Ariel. That's it. I promise you, it was built in there for some reason. But yeah, you are true.
No.
It is.
Wait a sec. We didn't say what year that was. I'm pretty sure that in an upcoming year, Friday falls on August 15th. So yeah, we're not committed to this year. No, that's not fair.
Get it as soon as possible. Do you know by chance, Alan, can you set it to send the exact same day, or is that something we'll fall off to Ariel?
No, you can send it the same day.
Awesome. Okay, here. And with regard to Listen 360, do you find that it's improved I know it's not directly related to it, but has it improved your Google ranking at all? I know it can promote it, but have you found that significant improvement using it?
I'm going to say yes, I think it has. One of the ways that it has directly is, and I've got the numbers and I didn't show them and I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but what it did was when we flipped the switch, we had a very small number of Google reviews for some time. And then what we did in Listen 360 was, remember I said on those 3 ancillary things you could do, you could either ask them to post a Google review, give them a gift, or whatever the third one was. The post the Google reviews, when we started to ask people to do that, our number of Google reviews went up significantly. So we went from 20 or 30 to we're somewhere over 100 now. So it didn't happen instantly, but it did happen. So yes, definitely, if you follow through on that first issue. So there were the three. There was the asking them to post a Google review, the gift, or the social sharing, inviting them to social share. The most powerful one to me is ask them when they give you a positive response to post it on Google. And so we did the same thing with HomeStars for a while. And for those of you outside of our market area, HomeStars is kind of like Home Advisor or Angie's List. It just happens to be prominent in our market. We also improved our ranking in HomeStars by asking our promoters in Listen 360 to post their reviews to HomeStars. So Ed, that's a great question and something I could have done a better job explaining in my comments, but short answer is absolutely yes.
Awesome. And just to show that Horizon is reaching everywhere, Craig in Northern Grisford Fjord, I probably butchered that and Nunavut. Welcome to the Horizon community. Happy to see you here tonight. I'm hopeful that it's nice and warm there this time of year. Another question is about competitive services like Blip. Have you heard about it? Any input, feedback?
Absolutely. Blip is from young Mr. Thompson. It's a great service. He's done a terrific job. It is definitely, definitely worth looking at. Similar to, but different, from Listen 360. Yeah, it's excellent. So very good. At the outset, I talked about alternatives and one focused on the home inspection industry. He's not 100% focused on home inspection, but I think that's where he got started. And so, yeah, good guy, good service, absolutely.
And can you just mention the website hosting company and design again? Some people.
Oh, Inspectors. Yeah, Inspectors Edge. If you go on our Horizon website on the public side, you'll find it there.
Or inspectorsedge.com if you want to go to it directly.
There you go. Thank you, Brian.
Now, with regard to Listen 360, could you opt out after a year or two if you no longer need the service?
Absolutely. You can opt out anytime. There's no contract, there's no commitment. This is month by month. We're not the least bit interested in having you do something with Horizon that isn't working for you. So if for whatever reason you find it's not working, you need to stop doing it immediately.
Perfect. So pardon me, that brings up an excellent point. You mentioned month to month. So there was the $250 fee. Is it one time fee or is it broken down into 12 monthly payments or installments, sir?
It's typically one monthly fee at the beginning of the year.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Is there by chance a trial available or no?
As far as I know, the answer is no to that question. That's not one that I've had before that I can remember. So I'm going to say no. And if Brian and Ariel turn up something different, we'll include that in the email.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And if someone posts a negative, right? So there's a detractor, they've posted a negative. Now, in this case, it doesn't ask them to post it to the website, or you can control that. But I guess it's one of those settings where you can control what goes to the website at the end of the day, right? So a detractor should never get onto the website in that sense. Is that correct?
That's right. It's up to you. Yep. By the way, when you get negative feedback, whether it's a Google review, Listen 360 review, whatever, if something appears in public about you that is negative, you can't get anybody to take anything down these days. They won't do that. The Yelps of the world, I won't get into, but what you do need to do is post a response quickly and politely and courteously. Make your case to the contrary as appropriate, so that, and any decent review website will post your response. So I don't suggest you post it. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we don't post negative ones at Carson Dunlop through Listen 360, but we do get negative ones sometimes through Google reviews, through Yelp, and so on, and through HomeStars. So our strategy is to try and respond quickly and professionally and courteously. But I think when people see a response from the company, that goes a long way.
Now, do you know if you showed on highlight in one of the earlier slides, but I just want to confirm, this is email, but is there also a capability to send by text by chance, this review request?
Not Not as far as I know. And I think the reason for that is the email contains that visual survey. And I'm not sure you could do that by text. I'm not smart enough to know how that would work.
Yeah, I'd have to link to something.
Yeah, best of my knowledge, it's email only.
Okay, but it was showing that the email was responsive, so it was formatted for a mobile-friendly device. So at the very least, when they open it up, it's going to look exactly as intended on the device.
That's right.
Right. And is there any chance that you're able to, and this may be again more on the technical side, so when you get a negative response, you're on your side, you can't really, how can the negative be deactivated? Tongue-tied. How can the negative response be deactivated by John?
Well, it doesn't need to be deactivated because it's not public. So what a negative response comes back to you by email. So it's recorded in your account inside Listen 360, and you can always go and look at it there. You will get an email with it, but that's a private email to you. So you don't need to publicly defend it, or you get it removed. You can, if you chose to post it publicly, if you said let detractors put their negative reviews up, then you can get them removed. You can also, there's also a mechanism where if you solve a problem for somebody and they give you a positive review, they can replace a negative review with a positive. But to me, that all gets very complicated and creates some heavy lifting for you. And as you could tell through most of my conversation, I was really trying to keep the heavy lifting to a minimum. So my default position is not to post the negative ones publicly to begin with. You might take issue with that, but understand that if you're going to go that route, it is more work for you to address them publicly.
Do you know by chance, Alan, Ivan has this question about how the positive reviews get populated to your website. So, you know, you had that shown on the website, you had a couple there drawn in, they're automatically populated, or?
The ones, they're automatically populated on the Listen 360 page. If you want to take them, some of them were kind of inside fancy text boxes with nice graphics and so on. That we did ourselves. So that was Carson Dunlop's web team doing that. So they took the positive responses, they selected a few of the good ones and put them on that page with the link to the Listen 360 presentation below, which was the much more sort of columns and rows of individual comments. So yeah, if you want something fancy graphical like that on your website, that you have to build as your dedicated web page. It's the power, it's why I like that little button. That button you can just pop onto your website, people can click on it and you can invite them to click on it and then it will go straight to it. So it's lighter lifting and you don't have to do any web design for that.
Perfect, it makes sense. So on your website, you had just developed, you know, a visual that you'd drawn the actual reviews from. Okay, that makes perfect sense there. All right, now we are getting close to the 10 o'clock mark, and we did plan for a 90-minute presentation with obviously an extended Q&A as always. But as we are reaching that 10 o'clock mark, I do want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I just want to see if there's any final questions we could address before we cap things off. Now, just for a reminder, we will be having this available on our YouTube channel this coming Friday, the 14th, and we will be sending out an email on Friday with a link to that, as well as a follow-up to any of the more technical questions that we weren't able to address this evening. So anyone that your question wasn't answered specifically because maybe a bit more technical, I guarantee you will get a response within the next 2 days. And as Alan mentioned, we will try to get everything set up by the end of the week. If there is a higher demand, it may take a little bit longer, but we will be in constant contact with everyone that is interested so we can keep you in the loop on how long that will take. For more information, Jim, what I would please ask that you do is we can either do one of two things. Best bet, if you just send us a quick email, we can always set up a time to speak to you one-on-one. I'll make a little note. I've been making notes for anyone else that would like to speak in greater detail. So if you send us an email, but I also got your name there, Jim, I can reach out to you and answer any questions you may need if you'd like. So if that would help you out, I can follow up with you tomorrow afternoon and we can talk about that one-on-one. All right. I think, Alan, we actually tackled every question. Craig says it's a nice -2 with the wind chill up in Nunavut. So kudos to you for watching the webinar at this time. But glad to see you here, and everyone else. Thank you so much for your contributions and participation tonight. It's always great to see everyone ask so many questions and be so lively. Alan, do you by chance have any parting thoughts before we cap off tonight?
Brian, I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks to you as always for making my life easy and managing all of this and pulling it together elegantly. We'll talk about the difference in the dates later on. But I also wanted to thank everybody for taking a couple of hours out of their lives to do this, and I really appreciate the interest. And as Brian said, the participation makes it fun. I love when you guys listen and ask the tough questions and challenge, and it's what the community is about, and working together to try and get better at what we do and move the profession forward. So I cherish the opportunity to talk to you folks, and I really love the feedback and the interaction. So thanks for that, and I look forward to getting back to a time when we can kind of see each other face to face, live and in person.
Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for choosing Horizon, and we'll see you in September.
Good night, everyone.